This audiobook unveils the final stage of awakening, the sacred remembrance that the universe does not answer your call, it is your call. As you listen, the illusion of separation fades, and you awaken to your natural state of effortless creation. This is the point where seeking ends and knowing begins. Final stage of awakening. Introduction. Within these sacred words, you arrive not at an ending, but at a return, a homecoming to the truth that has always lived within you. The final stage of awakening is not a step forward on your path, but a quiet turning inward, where remembrance dissolves the illusion of seeking. Here, the law of attraction reveals its highest mystery. It is not a tool to command the universe, but a mirror through which the universe remembers itself as you. Your desires are not whispers of absence, but the voice of the infinite, calling you back to the fullness of your own being. As this realization dawns, the veil between inner and outer fades into light. You no longer reach for creation. Creation unfolds through you effortlessly, as breath moves through the wind. What you once called manifestation becomes simply the natural rhythm of divine expression. In this sacred stage, striving gives way to stillness. The sun does not labor to shine, nor does the river struggle to flow. So, too, your being requires no improvement, only the remembrance of its own perfection. Here, the self dissolves into the greater intelligence that beats your heart, moves the stars, and grows the rose from the seed. You are not a seeker of power. You are its eternal source. The journey ends where it began, in the knowing that the universe you sought has always been looking through your eyes. Let these chapters be not lessons, but reflections, sacred mirrors reminding you of your eternal wholeness. The final stage of awakening is this: the serene realization that what you have been searching for is what you have always been. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Part 1. The Remembering Mind. Chapter 1. The Mirror at Dawn. You are about to uncover one of the most ancient secrets of manifestation, one that has been whispered through the ages, yet hidden in plain sight. It begins with a simple morning ritual that transformed an ordinary teacher's understanding of reality itself. In the soft light of dawn, Mabel stood before her mirror, as she had countless times before. But on this particular morning, something extraordinary occurred. As she gazed at her reflection, the familiar features of her face began to fade, revealing a luminous field of light that seemed to pulse with living intelligence. In that moment she understood. Her physical form was merely the outermost expression of an inner radiance that had always been there. This revelation unveils a fundamental truth. The world you perceive is not separate from you, but rather your inner state made visible. Just as Mabel's mirror revealed the light behind her form, every circumstance in your life reflects the vibration you emanate. Your thoughts are not merely passive observers. They are creative forces that ripple outward, shaping the very fabric of your reality. Consider Charlie, whose garden became renowned throughout his village for its extraordinary beauty. While other gardeners followed the same techniques, Charlie's flowers bloomed with unmatched vitality. His secret? As he tended each plant, he sang to them, not with practiced skill, but with pure joy, and loving attention. Where his song was most heartfelt, the blooms grew most magnificent. The garden responded not to his technique, but to the frequency of his love. Through Charlie's story, you glimpse another layer of this truth. Reality cannot help but mirror the quality of your consciousness. Like a garden responding to a gardener's song, your environment faithfully reflects your inner state. When you shift your vibration, the mirror of life must shift to match it. Ancient practice. The Dawn Mirror Meditation. Each morning as the sun rises, stand before a mirror. Look deeply into your own eyes and speak these words with quiet authority. I am the light looking through these eyes. Allow the declaration to resonate until the words dissolve, leaving only the pure awareness of being the observer rather than the image observed. In this space of recognition, you align with your true nature as the source rather than the reflection. Chapter 2. The Language of Stillness. In the heart of an ancient city lived Hazel, whose pen flowed with endless verses about dreams yet to manifest. Day after day, she would write elaborate affirmations, speaking her desires into poetry, yet her words seemed to echo into an empty void. Her manuscripts filled with wishes remained just that, wishes on paper. One morning, as she sat in her garden surrounded by crumpled chapters of unfinished poems, an inner voice whispered to her, "Be still." At first she resisted, reaching again for her pen, but something made her pause. In that moment of hesitation, a profound truth began to unfold. The universe speaks not in words, but in vibrations. Your thoughts, when cluttered with endless chatter, create static that drowns out the subtle frequencies of manifestation. Like a radio seeking a clear signal, your consciousness must tune to the right frequency, the frequency of being rather than wanting. When you cease the constant narration of lack, when you allow yourself to sink into the depths of silence, you enter the realm where creation begins. It is in this sacred space that your desires transmute from mere thoughts into living energy. Consider Floyd, who had fished the same waters for 40 years. Each morning, he would set out with prayers on his lips, anxiety in his heart about whether the day's catch would be enough. The more he worried, the more the fish seemed to elude him. Then came the day when exhaustion silenced his mind. As he sat in his boat, too tired even to pray, something shifted. The waters grew still, matching his inner quiet. That day his nets filled effortlessly. These waters mirror your own consciousness. When turbulent with worry and endless affirmations, they scatter your creative energy. But in stillness, they become a perfect conductor for manifestation. The silence you seek is not the absence of sound, but the presence of pure potential. It is the space between thoughts where the universe can finally speak to you in its own language, the language of direct knowing. Your desires need not be shouted into existence. They need only be held in the sacred silence of your being, where the universe already knows and responds to what you are, not what you say. Practice. As the sun sets each day, find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Sit in deliberate silence, letting go of words and affirmations. Instead of speaking your desires, simply rest in the feeling of their fulfillment. Let your consciousness settle into the deep knowing that what you seek is already yours. Maintain this silent communion until you no longer think of wanting, but simply experience having. This is the language the universe understands perfectly. Chapter 3: The Invisible Compass. The universe speaks most clearly in moments of stillness. This truth revealed itself through Minnie, a talented accountant who felt an inexplicable emptiness despite her professional success. Each morning she would arrive at her office surrounded by spreadsheets and financial reports, yet her heart whispered of a different path. One unusually quiet afternoon, as the office hummed with its usual activity, Minnie felt an unmistakable pull, a gentle tug at her consciousness that urged her to leave early and walk home instead of taking her usual train. Though logic protested, something deeper compelled her forward. Following this silent prompting, she found herself on an unfamiliar street where an ancient bookshop caught her eye. In its window sat a single volume, its spine adorned with a symbol that seemed to pulse with meaning, a spiral intersecting with a perfect circle. The moment Minnie's eyes met this symbol, a profound knowing washed over her. Within days, she discovered this same spiral circle represented sacred geometry and healing arts, the very field that had fascinated her since childhood, but which she had dismissed as impractical. This chance encounter initiated a sequence of events that transformed her life's direction. The universe's language flows not through words, but through the quiet promptings of intuition. When you still the chattering mind, you access an intelligence far greater than rational thought. This knowing doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It arrives as a subtle feeling, a wordless certainty, a peaceful pull toward your next step. Consider Chester, a humble clockmaker who lived by following what he called heaven's hints. One morning, he felt inexplicably drawn to a small cafe he'd never visited. There, he overheard a conversation about mechanical engineering that sparked an idea. Following another inner nudge, he attended a lecture where he met Dr. Elena Torres, whose expertise in quantum mechanics became the missing piece in his revolutionary timepiece design. Chester never questioned these coincidences. He understood that synchronicity is the universe's choreography, every random encounter orchestrated by a wisdom beyond logic. His invention emerged not from forced calculation, but from flowing with the current of divine timing. When you align with this silent guidance system, life ceases to be a series of accidents and becomes a dance of meaningful connections. The universe doesn't communicate through loud declarations, but through gentle nudges, meaningful coincidences, and that quiet knowing in your heart. This truth extends beyond personal guidance to the very nature of manifestation. Your deepest desires don't require forceful action, but rather a tuning in to the subtle frequencies of universal intelligence. Like a radio receiving clear signals only when properly tuned, your life aligns with your highest good when you learn to trust and follow your inner promptings. The practice. Before making any decision, pause and create sacred space within. Take 3 deep breaths, place your hand gently over your heart, and whisper these words: "Show me, not through thought, but through feeling." Then, in the stillness that follows, allow your next impulse to arise naturally. Trust the first feeling that emerges. It carries the wisdom of the universe itself. Chapter 4: The Weight of Wanting. The universe beckons you to witness a profound truth through the story of Betsy, whose relationship with abundance would transform the very fabric of her understanding. Each morning she would meticulously write her goals, create vision boards, and recite affirmations of wealth. Yet prosperity remained elusive, like water slipping through desperate fingers. Betsy's life was a testament to effort. She worked longer hours, attended every wealth seminar, and followed every manifestation technique she discovered. But with each striving action, she unknowingly strengthened the very vibration that kept abundance at bay. Her wanting became a force of its own, a constant reminder of what was missing rather than what was present. The law of attraction operates with mathematical precision. Like attracts like. When you vibrate at the frequency of wanting, you attract more experiences of wanting. When you emanate the energy of having, you draw more having to you. This is why those who chase prosperity often find it running faster than they can pursue. The secret lies in a paradox that the ancient masters knew well. To have, you must first be. To receive, you must first give from a place of wholeness. The universe responds not to what you want, but to what you are being in each moment. Consider then the tale of Orville, a humble craftsman who discovered this truth through an unexpected turn of events. During a time when his pockets held but a single silver coin, he encountered an elderly woman struggling to buy bread. Without hesitation, he offered his last piece of money, not from calculated charity, but from a spontaneous knowing that abundance is a flow, not a possession. That very evening, a wealthy merchant appeared at his workshop, commissioning enough work to sustain him for a year. The merchant revealed he had observed Orville's generous act earlier that day. Yet the real miracle wasn't the merchant's appearance. It was that Orville had already embodied abundance before any external confirmation arrived. This is the hidden truth. Abundance follows those who need nothing. When you stand in the vibration of sufficiency, feeling complete regardless of external circumstances, you become a natural attractor of prosperity. The universe cannot help but match your inner state of abundance with its outer reflection. Your task is not to eliminate desire, but to transform its quality. Instead of reaching for what you lack, acknowledge the fullness of what you are. Let your wanting dissolve into being. When you catch yourself straining toward prosperity, pause and remember. Lack attracts lack, while abundance attracts abundance. The ancient practice passed down through generations offers the key to this transformation. Find a quiet moment, close your eyes, and speak these words with the full force of your being. I already am what I seek. Then, move through your day, acting as though nothing were missing. Watch as the universe aligns itself to match your certainty, for it has no choice but to reflect back the truth you embody. Chapter 5. The River Remembers. High in the mountains, where ancient wisdom whispers through the valleys, there lived a woman named Millie, who spent her days observing the rhythms of nature. Each morning, she would walk along the riverbank, watching the eternal dance of water and stone. For years, she had fought against life's challenges, trying to force her way through obstacles with sheer determination. One dawn, as golden light painted the water's surface, Millie noticed something remarkable. The river never struggled with the rocks in its path. It didn't rage or resist. It simply flowed around them, continuing its journey without pause or protest. In that moment, the universe revealed its sacred teaching through nature's perfect demonstration. When you align with the universal flow, resistance dissolves naturally. Just as water shapes itself to every contour it encounters, your spirit holds the innate wisdom to navigate life's challenges without struggle. This is not passive acceptance, but rather the highest form of intelligence, the same force that moves planets and orchestrates the seasons. The law of attraction operates through this principle of effortless alignment. When you release resistance, you allow the universal current to carry you toward your desires. Your role is not to force outcomes, but to maintain the state of flow that attracts them naturally. Consider how the universe never strains to create. Flowers don't struggle to bloom, clouds don't force themselves to rain, and stars don't effort to shine. This same effortless power flows through you, waiting to be recognized and embraced. In a valley not far from Millie's home lived a merchant named Clyde. For years he had carried the weight of betrayal, his heart hardened by a business partner's deception. This bitterness became a dam, blocking the flow of abundance in his life. One evening, watching the river's ceaseless movement, he realized that holding on to past hurts was like trying to stop the current with his bare hands. In that moment of clarity, Clyde released his grievance to the flowing waters. As his bitterness dissolved, life began moving again with remarkable speed. Opportunities appeared, relationships healed, and prosperity returned. Not because he had fought for them, but because he had removed the resistance that held them at bay. The universe speaks through these flowing waters. Every obstacle you encounter is not a barrier to overcome, but an invitation to align with a higher wisdom. When you cease resisting what is, you discover the path of least resistance becomes the path of greatest power. At the close of each day, practice this ancient art of releasing resistance. Recall one moment where you felt yourself pushing against life's current. Breathe deeply and speak the words, "Flow" again, allowing each exhale to carry away tension until peace fills the space where struggle once lived. This simple ritual, practiced faithfully, will gradually transform your relationship with all of life's challenges. Chapter 6. The Golden Thread. In a remote mountain village where streams cascaded down ancient rocks, Lula dwelled in a small cottage overlooking the valley. Each morning she watched the mist rise from the waters, carrying whispers of wisdom that would soon transform her understanding of life's intricate design. As nature's patterns unfolded before her, Lula began perceiving a golden thread weaving through every moment of her existence. The loss of her childhood home had led her to this serene valley. The friend who betrayed her trust introduced her to the spiritual path. Even her greatest heartbreak guided her toward inner strength she never knew she possessed. Like the river finding its way through the landscape, the universe moves with precise intelligence. Every bend, every obstacle, every apparent detour serves the greater flow. You may perceive events as random or cruel in the moment, yet viewed from higher ground, they reveal themselves as perfectly orchestrated steps in your awakening. This truth manifested powerfully in Franklin's tale. A merchant who lost everything in a devastating fire, he spent years bitter about his misfortune. One day, while walking through the charred remains of his old shop, he noticed a seedling breaking through the ashes. This simple sight awakened him to a profound realization. Destruction had cleared the way for new growth. Franklin began retracing his life's path, seeing how each failure had redirected him toward greater authenticity. The business loss freed him from a path that wasn't truly his. His failed marriage taught him self-love. Even his estrangement from family had led to deeper spiritual seeking. The universe speaks through the language of experience. What appears as misfortune in the moment often reveals itself as mercy in retrospect. Your task is not to judge the path, but to find its hidden grace. Every circumstance, however challenging, carries a gift of awakening within its folds. The way forward opens through grateful remembrance. By blessing what was, you transform the energy of past pain into fuel for present growth. This is not mere positive thinking. It is the recognition of divine orchestration at work in every detail of your journey. Your life tells a story of perfect unfolding, even when the plot seems chaotic. The universe never wastes an experience. Every twist in your tale serves the emergence of your highest self. Through gratitude, you unveil the masterful choreography that has been guiding you all along. Sacred practice. As darkness settles tonight, sit in quiet reflection. Light a candle and allow your mind to drift back through time. Identify 3 experiences that once brought sorrow, but later revealed themselves as catalysts for growth. Name each one aloud with the words, "I bless you, teacher of wisdom." Feel how this simple act illuminates the meaning hidden in memory, transforming old wounds into stepping stones of light. Chapter 7. The Seat of Vision. Once there lived a painter named Daisy, who spent her days staring at blank canvases in her sunlit studio. Though her brushes lay ready and her paints remained moist, no images would flow from her hands. The more she tried to capture the world before her eyes, the more the creative spirit seemed to withdraw, leaving only emptiness where inspiration once danced. Through this void, a truth began to emerge. The world you see is not the world that creates. It is the world already created. True vision flows from within, where the seeds of tomorrow wait to blossom into form. As this wisdom settled into Daisy's awareness, she closed her physical eyes and opened the eyes of her heart. Rather than paint the flowers in her garden, she painted the joy they evoked. Instead of capturing the sunset, she expressed the peace it awakened in her soul. With each stroke guided by feeling rather than sight, her art transformed. The paintings spoke not of things, but of states of being, and those who viewed them felt themselves lifted into the vibrations they portrayed. Through Daisy's discovery, you glimpse the fundamental truth. Consciousness creates before form appears. In the same city lived Leonard, a musician who had never seen color with his physical eyes. Yet when he played his violin, he experienced rich symphonies of color, red for passion, blue for tranquility, gold for inspiration. His listeners often remarked that his music painted pictures in their minds. Leonard understood that true seeing happens in the soul, where imagination shapes reality before it manifests. What these stories unveil is the sacred science of creation. Imagination is not fantasy, but the bridge between infinite potential and physical experience. When you imagine with feeling, you are not dreaming. You are creating the template for tomorrow. Your consciousness is the original artist, and the world is its canvas. The ancient practice of vision. Each morning, before the world's noise intrudes, sit in quietness and imagine one scene from your desired reality. See it not as a distant wish, but as a present truth. Feel its textures, hear its sounds, breathe its atmosphere. Let emotion saturate the image until it feels more real than memory. Hold this living picture until its essence begins to color your day. You are not visualizing, you are remembering the future into being. Chapter 8. The Quiet Reversal. In the depths of your being lies a truth so fundamental that its simplicity often escapes notice. Feeling creates form. This eternal principle reveals itself through the tale of Ethel, whose pursuit of achievement led her down an unexpected path of wisdom. Ethel believed that once her business flourished, her anxiety would dissolve. She worked tirelessly, pushing through exhaustion, convinced that external success would finally grant her inner peace. Yet with each goal attained, tranquility remained elusive. The more she chased accomplishment, the more tension gripped her spirit. One morning, as she sat in her office reviewing financial projections, a shaft of sunlight caught her attention. She watched dust motes dancing in the golden beam, their movement effortless and perfect. In that moment, understanding dawned. The universe operates through ease, not strain. This insight marked the beginning of her transformation. Instead of forcing outcomes, she began each day cultivating the feeling of fulfillment first. She allowed peace to precede profit, joy to antecede achievement. To her amazement, as her inner state shifted, external circumstances began to mirror her newfound serenity. Opportunities arose naturally, clients appeared unexpectedly, and solutions emerged effortlessly. This principle found further expression through Percy, whose small bakery struggled at the edge of town. Each morning, he kneaded his dough with worried thoughts about sales and survival. His bread, though skillfully crafted, carried the subtle imprint of his fear. Then one dawn, while the ovens warmed, Percy recalled his grandmother's words, "Bread rises best with love." He began infusing each loaf with gratitude, blessing his creations with the joy of nourishing others rather than the anxiety of making ends meet. Within days, customers remarked on a new quality in his bread, something indefinable yet unmistakable. Word spread, and soon his bakery overflowed with appreciative patrons. These stories illuminate a profound truth. The outer world arranges itself according to your inner atmosphere. Success does not create happiness. Happiness creates success. Abundance does not bring peace. Peace brings abundance. This is the great inversion that unlocks manifestation's deeper mystery. The energy you emit becomes the reality you inhabit. When you alter your emotional frequency first, the physical plane must reshape itself to match your new vibration. This is not wishful thinking, but cosmic law, as precise as mathematics and as reliable as gravity. Ancient practice. Before engaging in any endeavor, pause and generate the feeling of its successful completion. Let this emotional tone fill your being entirely. Only then, while anchored in that joyful certainty, begin your action. Watch as the external world aligns itself with your inner state, for this is the true art of creation. Chapter 9. The Gift of the Ordinary. High in a mountain temple, a simple truth echoes through time. What you seek has always resided within the moment you stand in now. This wisdom unfolds through the story of Clara, whose quest for enlightenment led her through distant lands and sacred sites. Clara spent years searching for extraordinary signs of divine presence. She traveled to holy mountains, meditated in ancient caves, and sought blessings from renowned mystics. Yet transformation remained elusive, always seemingly one pilgrimage away. One evening, returning home exhausted and discouraged, Clara found herself at her kitchen sink. As warm water flowed over her hands and steam rose from the dishes, something shifted. The simple act of cleaning became a dance of light on soap bubbles. The quiet clink of plates held the same sanctity as temple bells. A child's laughter drifting through her window carried the same blessing as any sacred chant. In that ordinary moment, the extraordinary revealed itself. The divine presence she had chased across continents had been waiting in these humble acts all along. Each breath, each movement, each sound contained the entirety of existence, when witnessed with full attention. This points to an essential truth. The miraculous does not announce itself with thunder. It whispers through the rhythm of daily life. The universe expresses its infinite nature not just in grand gestures, but in the perfect simplicity of each passing moment. Consider Archie, who worked nights keeping a city office building clean. As he moved through empty corridors with his broom, he sang softly to himself, old hymns and gentle melodies. Unknown to him, his simple presence and quiet joy began to affect the entire building. Workers arriving each morning felt inexplicably uplifted. The atmosphere itself seemed to hold a subtle blessing. Without trying to create any particular effect, his complete immersion in his task transformed the space and everyone who entered it. The truth illuminated through Archie's story is that presence itself is the miracle. When you enter fully into any activity, no matter how mundane it appears, you align with the creative force of the universe. Your natural state of being becomes a light that touches all it encounters. The miracle you seek is not waiting in some future moment or distant place. It lives in the depth of your attention to now. When you release the search for extraordinary experiences and instead bring extraordinary presence to ordinary moments, you discover that enlightenment has been walking beside you all along. The practice. Choose one simple task today: washing dishes, folding laundry, walking to your door. Enter into it so completely that you disappear into its rhythm. Let your awareness merge with the motion until only the activity remains. In this dissolution of the seeker into the moment, you touch the silent union with the divine that has always been here, waiting to be noticed. Chapter 10. The Bridge of Trust. In the heart of a bustling city, Nora sat at her polished desk gazing out the window of her corner office. For 15 years she had built a fortress of security: pension, benefits, golden handcuffs that gleamed with false promise. Yet beneath this carefully constructed shelter, a quiet voice grew stronger each day, whispering of a greater purpose that awaited beyond these walls. The universe speaks in the language of gentle urgency, calling forth those ready to cross the bridge between safety and destiny. Nora felt this call in her bones, though her mind crafted elaborate defenses against it, until one morning, when the walls of her office seemed to dissolve, revealing the vast expanse of possibility that had always existed beyond them. Trust is not a thought, but a frequency, a vibration that aligns you with the infinite intelligence that orchestrates galaxies. When you attune to this frequency, what appears as a leap becomes a graceful step. The universe does not require your struggle, only your willingness to move in harmony with its flow. As Nora finally surrendered to this inner knowing, leaving behind her carefully plotted life, doors opened that no amount of planning could have revealed. This is the way of universal law. What seems like risk to the mind is recognition to the soul. Consider Edgar, who set out across the continent with nothing but an inner compass guiding him. Where logic predicted hardship, synchronicity provided shelter. When his car broke down in a small town, a mechanic offered not just repairs, but connection to opportunities that would shape his journey. Each step revealed the next, though none could be seen from the starting point. The universe operates through this hidden order, an invisible architecture of support that becomes visible only to those who trust enough to step forward. Every master teacher has known this truth. Security lies not in external structures, but in alignment with this deeper intelligence. When you vibrate at the frequency of trust, you become a magnet for miracles, not as supernatural events, but as the natural unfolding of divine order. Your role is not to engineer outcomes, but to maintain the vibration of knowing that all is well, all is guided, all is supported. The bridge between where you stand and where you're called to be is built of trust. Not the trust that demands guarantees, but the trust that recognizes you are an expression of the same intelligence that turns seeds into forests and stars into galaxies. The practice. Each morning, before the world's noise drowns out your inner wisdom, whisper these words: I trust the unseen order. Then take one action that your heart suggests without requiring proof of its outcome. This is how you build the muscle of faith, not through grand gestures, but through small surrenders to the wisdom that whispers within. Part 2. The Radiant Field. Chapter 11. The Magnetic Heart. In a small seaside town, Lila tended her flower shop, arranging blossoms with mechanical precision while her thoughts dwelled on loneliness. Though she understood the law of attraction intellectually, something remained missing. One morning, as she placed roses in the window, an elderly woman paused outside, tears streaming down her face. Without thinking, Lila rushed out, offering not just flowers, but genuine compassion. In that moment of pure love, something shifted. Within days, her shop transformed into a gathering place of hearts. People came not just for flowers, but for the warmth that now permeated the space. This reveals a truth older than time itself. Emotion creates reality faster than any thought. The heart generates a magnetic field 5,000 times stronger than the brain's. When you align your emotional frequency with what you seek, manifestation becomes instantaneous. It is not your thoughts that the universe responds to, but the vibrational signature of your feelings. This is why those who love deeply often manifest effortlessly. They bypass the mind's complications and broadcast pure feeling into the quantum field. Your emotions are the language the universe understands most clearly. When heart and desire synchronize, creation follows with grace that thoughts alone cannot summon. Vernon, a businessman known for his skepticism, discovered this truth unexpectedly. After decades of strategic networking, he began a simple practice of genuine appreciation for everyone he met. He stopped seeing people as means to ends and started recognizing the divine spark within each soul. His relationships transformed overnight, not through technique, but through authentic connection. This shift occurs because gratitude is consciousness recognizing itself. When you appreciate deeply, you activate a resonance with the very source of creation. The universe, seeing itself through your eyes of appreciation, responds by multiplying what you value. This is not metaphor, but physics, like attracts like at the subtlest levels of reality. Your heart is a transmitter more powerful than any technology yet devised. Its electromagnetic field extends far beyond your physical form, touching everything and everyone around you. When you project love, that field expands exponentially, creating a sphere of positive influence that attracts similar frequencies. The ancient masters knew this secret. Love is not an emotion, but a state of resonance with universal intelligence. When you love without condition, without target, without need for return, you align with the very force that holds galaxies together. This is why spiritual teachers throughout time have emphasized the heart's wisdom over the mind's knowledge. The practice. As twilight approaches each evening, find a quiet moment. Bring to mind 3 people, known or unknown, near or far. Send them blessings of pure love, expecting nothing in return. Feel your heart expanding with each blessing, knowing that this silent offering ripples through the fabric of reality. Continue until you sense your field extending beyond measure, touching the infinite. This practice, sustained with sincerity, will transform not just your ability to attract, but your very essence. Chapter 12. The Frequency of Forgiveness. Agnes lived in the shadow of an old wound, carrying the weight of betrayal like heavy stones in her heart. Each morning she would wake to find her joints more rigid, her breath more shallow, her vitality diminishing despite all attempts at healing. The doctors found no physical cause, yet her body seemed to mirror the hardness that had taken root in her spirit. For years, she had rehearsed the story of how her business partner had deceived her, costing her not just money, but years of dreams. The bitterness became a companion, justifying her isolation and mistrust. Yet, the universe, in its infinite wisdom, works through unexpected channels. One day, while organizing old papers, Agnes discovered a forgotten photograph, her former partner looking young and hopeful on their first day of business. In that instant, something shifted. She saw not the person who had wronged her, but another soul on their own imperfect journey. Tears came, not of anger but of release. As Agnes allowed compassion to soften her heart, remarkable changes began to unfold. Her body responded as if freed from invisible chains. Energy returned, pain subsided, and opportunities emerged as if by magic. Within months, a new business venture appeared, far more aligned with her evolved self. In the mountain village where Rufus made his home, a similar transformation was taking place. For a decade, he had not spoken to his brother over a disputed inheritance. The silence between them grew into a vast canyon of assumption and pride. Yet one autumn morning, Rufus woke with a strange lightness in his heart. Without planning or reasoning, he found himself releasing every judgment he had held against his brother. The simple act of letting go created a shift in the invisible fabric of reality. That very afternoon, his brother's name appeared in a local newspaper article, revealing he lived just 30 miles away. Their reunion flowed as naturally as a stream finding its course to the sea. These stories reveal a profound truth. Forgiveness operates as a frequency cleansing in the quantum field. When you release judgment, you alter your energetic signature, allowing new possibilities to emerge. The person you forgive may never know of your inner transformation. Yet the universe responds to your shifted state with swift precision. The ancient sages knew this secret. Forgiveness was never about condoning actions or reconciling relationships. It was, and always has been, the ultimate act of self-liberation. In releasing others from your judgment, you free yourself from the dense, energetic bonds that limit your own expansion. Practice of remembrance. In the sacred stillness of evening, sit quietly and bring to mind one person toward whom you hold resentment. Place your hand over your heart and breathe deeply. With each exhale, send waves of compassion toward their soul. Visualize the energetic cords between you dissolving into pure light. Continue until you feel the subtle shift from resistance to peace. Remember, this is not about them. It is about freeing your own magnetic field to attract your highest good. Chapter 13. The Silent Architect. In the heart of an ancient city, Pearl walked through her days weighed down by constant worry about her small art gallery's survival. Each morning brought fresh anxieties about rent, exhibitions, and dwindling attendance. Until one dawn, standing before an empty wall, she made a choice that would alter the invisible blueprint of her existence. She chose joy. Rather than fixating on what might go wrong, Pearl began imagining her gallery filled with light and appreciation. Within days, a series of remarkable coincidences unfolded. A renowned artist, lost on his way to another destination, wandered into her space. A leak in the building above led to the discovery of a forgotten skylight that, once restored, transformed the gallery's atmosphere. Each synchronicity seemed guided by unseen hands, orchestrating a symphony of perfect timing. The law reveals itself through such moments of alignment. When you shift your inner frequency from worry to joy, you activate the subconscious architect within. This deeper mind operates beyond time, weaving patterns of manifestation through the fabric of reality. Your conscious thoughts may plant seeds, but it is your subconscious that builds the garden. Consider Calvin, the forgotten artist whose sketchbooks gathered dust in an attic for decades. In his youth, he had drawn countless visions of beautiful spaces, buildings that seemed impossible in their time. 40 years later, his granddaughter discovered these sketches, astonished to find they perfectly matched the innovative designs now transforming cities worldwide. Calvin's subconscious had reached across time, sketching the blueprints of future blessings. The universe operates through this hidden architecture. Your conscious mind chooses the emotional tone, joy or worry, trust or fear. But it is your subconscious that translates these frequencies into the structural patterns of experience. Every coincidence, every synchronicity, every chance encounter follows the invisible lines drawn by your deeper mind. When you choose joy over worry, as Pearl did, you allow your subconscious architect to work unimpeded. The universe then responds not to your surface thoughts, but to the deeper blueprints being drawn in the quiet chambers of your being. Sacred practice. As you prepare for sleep tonight, select one cherished dream and feel its fulfillment with your whole being. Experience the joy, the gratitude, the peace of its completion. Let this feeling be the last impression you make upon your subconscious before drifting into slumber. While you rest, the great architect within will begin laying its foundations in the fertile soil of possibility. Before we get into the next chapter, you can download a free ebook version of this audiobook using the link in the pinned comment below this video. Chapter 14. The Breath Between Thoughts. In the heart of an ancient city, a woman named Francine tended her garden each morning, rushing from task to task until her hands trembled with exhaustion. Like many, she believed that constant motion equaled progress, until one morning when a butterfly landed on her pruning shears, causing her to freeze mid-movement. In that suspended moment between action and reaction, Francine experienced something extraordinary, a sacred emptiness that felt paradoxically full. Time seemed to pause, and in that pause she sensed an invisible architecture taking shape, as though the universe itself was breathing through her stillness. This moment awakens an ancient truth. Creation does not emerge from endless doing, but from the pregnant pause between actions. Just as music finds its power in the spaces between notes, life orchestrates its miracles in the gaps between thoughts. These intervals are not empty voids, but rather the quantum fields where all possibility gathers its strength. When you learn to rest in these spaces, you align with the universe's natural rhythm. Each pause becomes a reset point where your vibration can naturally return to its original resonance with Source. This is not meditation as you know it, but rather a way of being, an awareness of the fertile emptiness that cradles all formation. Consider Wallace, a merchant whose racing thoughts had woven a web of anxiety around his heart. His transformation began when he discovered the power of conscious breathing, not in the breath itself, but in the subtle space between exhale and inhale. In those moments of pure potential, he found his nervous system settling into deep peace. This peace became more than mere relaxation. It transformed into creative power that reshaped his reality. Day by day, Wallace noticed his business decisions flowing with unprecedented clarity. Opportunities appeared precisely when needed, as though orchestrated by an invisible hand. He had stumbled upon what the ancient ones knew. The space between thoughts is where the universe plants its seeds. The subtle architecture of your life takes shape in these sacred pauses. When you rush from moment to moment, you override the natural blueprint trying to emerge. But when you honor the gaps, you allow the silent architect, that infinite intelligence, to arrange circumstances with perfect precision. The empty space between your thoughts is not empty at all. It is pure potential, waiting to be shaped by your conscious awareness. Here, in this fertile void, miracles gestate before taking form. Throughout your day, practice finding these moments of sacred pause. Let the space between your exhale and inhale become a sanctuary where you touch the infinite. This is where manifestation begins, not in striving, but in the quiet intervals where being touches non-being. Practice. Throughout your day, rest for one breath between exhale and inhale, sensing infinite possibility there. Let this sacred pause become your gateway to the creative force that shapes all reality. Chapter 15. The Choir of Light. In a bustling marketplace, Nettie stood amidst a chorus of voices. Merchants complained about slow business, customers grumbled about prices, and fellow shopkeepers shared tales of misfortune. Each morning she opened her small fabric shop to the same symphony of discontent, until one day a strange phenomenon caught her attention. The colors of her precious silks seemed duller, their vibrancy diminished by the very air that carried these heavy words. Through Nettie's awakening, a profound truth emerges. The universe operates on resonance. Each voice, each thought, each murmur creates ripples in the field of infinite possibility. Your environment is not merely a backdrop. It is a living, breathing orchestra, playing the melody of your manifestations. When you inhabit spaces filled with lower vibrations, criticism, blame, lack, these frequencies weave themselves into the fabric of your experience. Like a tuning fork responding to nearby sound, your own energy field begins to hum at these familiar notes. This is not punishment or reward, but the natural law of sympathetic vibration. Yet within this truth lies extraordinary power. Just as a single pure note can transform a discordant symphony, your conscious choice of vibration can elevate entire environments. Each word you speak sends waves through the quantum field, returning multiplied in accordance with its frequency. Nettie discovered this power when she began responding to complaints with gentle appreciation. "How fortunate we are to have shops at all," she would say, or "These challenges bring opportunities for growth." At first, others looked at her strangely, but slowly, imperceptibly, the marketplace's song began to change. In another town lived Gus, a retired school teacher who frequented the local cafe. Where others gathered to exchange rumors and grievances, he transformed each conversation into an opportunity for gratitude. "Have you noticed how well the garden grows this year?" he would interject when talk turned sour. His genuine appreciation created a field so strong that patrons found themselves naturally speaking of life's gifts rather than its burdens. Through your voice, you either strengthen or transmute the vibrations around you. Every word is a seed planted in the field of collective consciousness. Choose to speak light and watch as reality rearranges itself to match your song. The ancient masters knew this secret. Your environment is not separate from you. It is you, externalized. The voices you allow into your sphere become the chorus of your creation. The practice. Speak one deliberate word of kindness aloud each day. Let it ring true and clear, like a bell cutting through fog. Notice how this single note begins to transform the music of your surroundings, creating harmonious echoes that return as blessings multiplied. Chapter 16. The Sacred Pause of Receiving. In a small chapel bathed in morning light, Fay knelt in her familiar spot. Her whispered prayers echoed against stone walls, prayers for abundance, for healing, for guidance. Day after day, she poured out her heart. Yet something felt incomplete. The words flowed outward like water into sand, leaving no sense of fullness behind. The universe speaks in the language of feeling, not in words alone. Your prayers, affirmations, and intentions are but half the circle of creation. The completing force lies in receptivity, the divine feminine principle that draws manifestation into form. Like the earth receiving rain, like the moon reflecting light, like the flower opening to sun, your role in creation requires both expression and acceptance. When you speak to the universe without pausing to receive, you create an incomplete circuit. The power lies not in endless asking, but in the sacred art of allowing response. This is why masters of old taught, "Be still and know." The knowing comes in stillness, in the spaces between words, in moments of pure receptivity. In the quiet valley beyond the chapel, Harold discovered this truth through an unexpected path. Each morning he would visualize his heart's desires with crystal clarity. But unlike before, he began to sit in silence afterward, allowing the images to settle into his being. He noticed that when he stopped striving to make things happen, life began moving toward him. Opportunities appeared like birds alighting on still branches. Doors opened without pushing. Solutions emerged from the quiet, like stars becoming visible in darkness. Your task is not to reach endlessly outward, but to become an open vessel. The universe's abundance flows naturally into spaces of acceptance. When you pray, affirm, or intend, let your words be seeds planted in fertile soil. Then rest in the knowing that what you have planted is already growing. Think of creation as a dance between giving and receiving, between action and allowance, between the outward and inward breaths of life. Your power lies not in perfect words, but in perfect receptivity to what follows them. Ancient practice of receiving. After speaking any intention, remain in complete silence for several breaths. Feel the reality of what you've spoken settling into your being, not as a future possibility, but as a present truth. Let your body soften, your mind quiet, your heart open. Stay in this receptive state until you sense the subtle shift from requesting to receiving. This is how prayer becomes manifestation, how words become worlds. Chapter 17. The Song of Alignment. In a modest cottage at the edge of town, Myrtle moved through her morning routine, humming softly as she swept the wooden floors. Without conscious thought, melodies flowed from her lips, sometimes joyful, sometimes wistful, but always true to her inner state. As weeks passed, she began to notice something extraordinary. When her humming carried notes of contentment, the sunlight seemed to dance more brightly through her windows. When her tones rose with hope, unexpected gifts appeared at her doorstep. The universe speaks in vibration. Every particle of creation oscillates at specific frequencies, creating a cosmic symphony of energy. Your voice, whether expressed through speech, song, or the quietest hum, sends ripples through this infinite field. These sound waves don't merely travel through air, they reshape the very fabric of reality. When you align your vocal expression with your deepest truth, you activate a power known to the ancient mystics. They understood that sound doesn't simply reflect reality, it creates it. Every syllable you utter carries creative force. Every note you hum broadcasts your frequency to the universal mind. In a city far from Myrtle's cottage, Dean struggled with sleepless nights until he discovered an age-old practice. Each evening he would sit at the edge of his bed and chant softly, "I am peace, I am rest." The vibration of these words carried on his breath gradually transformed his nervous system. What began as mere words evolved into lived experience, his body responding to the frequency of tranquility he voiced into being. These stories reveal a fundamental truth. Sound is not separate from substance. The vibration you emanate through voice becomes the template for physical manifestation. This is why masters of old taught their students to chant their desires rather than simply think them. The voice carries the power to reorganize matter itself. Your voice is an instrument of creation, waiting to be played in harmony with your highest vision. When you consciously direct your vocal vibration, you participate in the universe's song of becoming. Each sound you make either reinforces your current reality or calls forth a new one. Sacred practice. Find a quiet space where you feel safe to express yourself freely. Close your eyes and allow a gentle humming to arise naturally from your heart. Let this hum carry the feeling of what you wish to manifest, be it peace, abundance, love, or healing. Continue until you physically feel the vibration resonating in your chest, as though your entire being has become an instrument of manifestation. Let the sound shape your reality as you become one with its creative power. Chapter 18. The Alchemy of Contrast. In a small apartment overlooking the city, Rita sat amidst unopened bills and unanswered letters, her heart heavy with the weight of mounting challenges. Each morning brought fresh worries, a dwindling bank account, strained relationships, and dreams that seemed to slip further from her grasp. Yet within this darkness, an ancient wisdom waited to unfold. You see, the universe operates through the principle of polarity. Every experience of lack points precisely toward abundance. Each moment of confusion contains within it the seed of clarity. This is not mere philosophy. It is the operating system of creation itself. Through Rita's journey, you discover that contrast serves as the great illuminator. When her landlord raised the rent beyond her means, the discomfort awakened a dormant entrepreneurial spirit. The very pressure that threatened to break her instead reformed her into someone stronger, wiser, more resourceful. She began to see that her challenges weren't punishment, but preparation, each one clarifying exactly what she wished to create instead. Consider Otis, whose beloved left him without explanation. In the depths of heartbreak, he discovered that pain could be transformed into creative power. His grief became the raw material for paintings that touched thousands of souls. What began as personal anguish evolved into universal art, hanging now in galleries across continents. The very darkness that seemed to swallow him became the backdrop against which his light shone most brilliantly. This is the secret hidden in plain sight. Contrast exists not to defeat you, but to define you. When you understand this principle, every unwanted circumstance becomes a precise compass, pointing toward your desired reality. The bill you cannot pay shows you exactly what abundance looks like. The relationship that ends reveals the qualities you truly seek in love. Your resistance to what is creates the exact pressure needed for your expansion. Like a diamond forming under Earth's compression, your challenges shape you into something more precious than before. When you embrace this truth, even your darkest moments become sacred teachers, each one whispering, "This too serves your awakening." The practice. When discomfort arises, softly say, "Thank you for showing me what I prefer instead," and pivot your attention there. Allow contrast to serve as your guide toward greater clarity and alignment. Chapter 19. The Circle Within. A gentle snow fell outside the community center where Edna had arranged chairs in a perfect circle. For months she had felt called to bring people together, not knowing why, only sensing an invisible thread weaving hearts into wholeness. That evening, as 12 strangers settled into their seats, the air grew thick with possibility. As they closed their eyes and breathed as one, something extraordinary unfolded. The room's energy shifted, becoming more luminous, more alive. One participant's chronic pain dissolved. Another received clarity about a long-standing problem. Yet another felt waves of peace wash away years of anxiety. Edna observed, awestruck, as individual intentions amplified into a field of pure potential. The universe speaks through numbers, And in this gathering of souls, mathematics transformed into magic. When one person held a vision, it carried a certain force. But when 12 aligned their consciousness, the power multiplied exponentially. Like drops of water joining to form an ocean, their combined awareness created currents strong enough to shift reality itself. Through these weekly gatherings, a profound truth emerged. Consciousness knows no boundaries. Each person's enlightenment contributed to the awakening of all. When one heart opened to abundance, every heart in the circle felt the expansion. When one mind glimpsed truth, all minds grew clearer. This principle found beautiful expression through Claude, a quiet man who had carried grief like a shadow. One evening, he arrived at the circle particularly heavy-hearted. As others entered states of deep peace, he simply observed, making no effort to change his state. Yet by the session's end, his burden had lifted. Simply witnessing others' tranquility had transformed his field. The circle revealed an ancient mystery. We are not separate transmitters of energy, but nodes in an infinite web of light. When you raise your frequency, you lift the whole. When you remember your divine nature, you help others remember theirs. This is the alchemy of unified consciousness, the power to transform not just individual lives, but the collective field of human experience. Here lies a truth as vast as the cosmos, yet as intimate as a heartbeat. Every awakening ripples outward eternally. Your inner light, when fully expressed, becomes a beacon for others. Your peace becomes their peace. Your joy becomes their joy. In the great circle of being, no transformation is ever truly personal. All evolution is collective. Ancient practice. Find a quiet moment, close your eyes, and envision yourself as a glowing circle of unity. See this light expanding, reaching out to touch everyone you know. Feel the boundaries between self and other growing softer, blurrier, until only love remains. Let this radiance flow freely, asking nothing, blessing all. Hold this vision until you sense yourself as both the drop and the ocean, both the one and the many. Chapter 20. The Sapphire Sky. In the depths of a sleepless night, Irene stepped onto her balcony, troubled by questions that seemed to have no answers. As she gazed upward, the vast expanse of stars caught her breath. In that moment, her worries dissolved into pure wonder, and something shifted in her being. The universe was no longer a distant phenomenon, but an intimate presence, breathing with her, through her. What unfolded in that starlit moment reveals an eternal truth. Wonder is the highest frequency of consciousness. When you stand in awe before life's mysteries, you align instantly with the creative force that births galaxies. This is not mere poetic sentiment. It is the physics of transformation. Wonder dissolves the illusory boundary between observer and observed. In its presence, the mind's constant chatter falls silent, and you enter a state of pure receptivity. This receptivity is the fertile soil from which all manifestation grows. When you approach life with wonder, you broadcast a frequency that attracts synchronicity, insight, and grace. Consider Ross, whose groundbreaking research had hit an impenetrable wall. Night after night, he pored over data, growing more frustrated as solutions eluded him. One evening, exhausted, he stepped outside his laboratory. The sight of Orion's belt streaming across the winter sky stopped him in his tracks. As wonder filled his heart, The rigid patterns of his thinking dissolved. In that expanded state, the answer he had been seeking appeared with effortless clarity, not through analysis, but through alignment with the intelligence that orchestrates cosmic dance. Your capacity for wonder is a direct channel to universal wisdom. When you cultivate amazement at existence itself, you tune to the frequency where answers arise naturally, where healing occurs spontaneously, where abundance flows freely. Wonder is not childish naivete. It is sophisticated spiritual technology. The state of wonder instantly elevates your vibration beyond limitation, beyond doubt, beyond the artificial constraints of conventional thinking. In wonder, you remember your true nature as an expression of infinite intelligence. This remembrance is not intellectual. It is cellular, visceral, immediate. Practice. Spend one moment tonight gazing at the open sky, feeling yourself both observer and star. Allow wonder to dissolve the illusion of separation until you sense the same force that illuminates the heavens shining through your own awareness. In this recognition lies the key to conscious creation. Part 3. The Becoming Light. Chapter 21. The Still Flame. A storm raged through the valley, but inside her small cottage, Lottie remained untouched by the tempest. Lightning flashed and thunder rolled, yet she sat motionless, her inner light unwavering. For years she had fought against life's turbulence, trying to control every outcome. But on this night, she discovered a profound truth. True power lies not in resistance, but in remaining unmoved at your center. The universe speaks through every challenge, revealing that your natural state is peace. When you cease struggling against what is, you tap into an ancient power that transcends circumstance. Like the eye of a hurricane, perfect stillness exists at the heart of all motion. This stillness is not passive. It is the very force that holds galaxies in their dance. You may notice that those who achieve the most move with remarkable serenity. Their secret is not in pushing against life, but in maintaining their inner equilibrium regardless of external conditions. This state of being, this unwavering centeredness, becomes a magnetic force that naturally orders chaos around it. In the bustling marketplace of a distant city, Eli worked as a merchant. While others shouted and scrambled, he maintained an unshakable calm. Those who entered his shop felt their anxieties dissolve, though they could not explain why. Without speaking a word about peace, he taught it through his presence. Customers began lingering longer, not for his wares, but for the tranquility that surrounded him. Even on days when theft or loss occurred, his serenity remained constant, like a lighthouse steady above stormy seas. What Eli embodied was not detachment, but the highest form of engagement, one that flows from your deepest nature. When you find this place of perfect poise within yourself, you become like a mountain unmoved by the winds of circumstance. Your peace becomes a shelter for others, though you make no effort to change them. The truth reveals itself. Tranquility is not something to achieve, but your original state to remember. Like the depths of the ocean that remain forever still, while waves crash above, your essence stays serene, regardless of surface turbulence. The eternal flame of your awareness burns steady, unaffected by the winds of change. This is your natural power, not to control the storm, but to be so deeply rooted in your center that no storm can disturb your inner light. The practice. Close your eyes and visualize a single flame burning in your heart center. See winds of thought and emotion swirl around it, but the flame remains perfectly still, unwavering. Return to this image throughout your day, especially in moments of chaos or challenge. Feel the stability of this inner light until stillness becomes your constant companion, your natural state of being. Chapter 22. The Shadow's Gift. In a dimly lit room, Opal sat before her mirror, averting her eyes from her reflection. For years she had run from aspects of herself she deemed unworthy, her anger, her fear, her moments of selfishness. Yet each attempt to banish these qualities only strengthened their grip on her spirit. The universe holds a sacred truth. What you resist will persist. Those parts of yourself that you judge most harshly carry within them seeds of transformation. Your shadows are not your enemies. They are guardians holding fragments of your power, waiting to be reclaimed through acceptance. When you war against any aspect of yourself, you fracture your own energy field. The very force you use to push away unwanted traits becomes the chain that binds them to you. True liberation arrives not through rejection, but through the courageous act of embracing all that you are. Amos discovered this wisdom while watching a fellow artist receive acclaim he desperately desired. The jealousy that arose felt toxic, shameful. Yet instead of suppressing this emotion, he chose to sit with it, to listen to its message. In that acceptance, jealousy revealed itself as passionate aspiration in disguise. The very energy that had tormented him transformed into fuel for his own creative expression, leading him to produce his finest work. Your perceived flaws are not mistakes to be corrected, but messengers bearing gifts of wisdom. Each shadow trait serves a purpose, perhaps protecting you when you were vulnerable or helping you survive challenging times. When you honor these aspects rather than condemning them, they naturally evolve into their higher expressions. The darkness you fear holds the very light you seek. Your anger points to boundaries that need honoring. Your fear highlights values worth protecting. Your grief testifies to your capacity for love. Nothing in your nature is inherently wrong. It is your judgment that creates conflict where integration wants to occur. This ancient practice of embracing rather than banishing has transformed seekers throughout time. As you make peace with all aspects of yourself, you access greater wholeness. The energy once spent fighting yourself becomes available for creation and joy. The practice. Find a quiet space and close your eyes. Bring to mind one trait or emotion you've rejected within yourself. Breathe deeply and say to this aspect, "Thank you for trying to protect me. I honor the purpose you served." Stay with any sensations that arise until you feel a shift toward acceptance. Notice how resistance dissolves into renewed energy when met with understanding. Chapter 23. The Door Without Locks. A tale whispers through time of Phoebe, who traveled far and wide searching for enlightenment. She climbed mountain peaks to meet mystics, crossed oceans to study with gurus, and spent years in meditation retreats. Each teacher offered wisdom, yet something remained unfulfilled. The more desperately she sought awakening, the more it seemed to recede like a mirage. You see, the greatest paradox of spiritual awakening lies in its supreme simplicity. The truth you seek is not hidden in secret teachings or esoteric practices. It dwells within you as your very essence, like the sun that needs no proof of its light. The mind creates complexity where none exists. It builds elaborate paths to reach what is already here. Every genuine spiritual teaching points to one fundamental truth. You are what you seek. The divine presence you chase through books and teachers is the awareness reading these words right now. When you truly understand this, seeking falls away naturally. Not through effort or achievement, but through recognition. Like a wave realizing it was always the ocean, you discover that what you believed was a journey was actually an awakening to your original nature. Consider how a flower doesn't strive to blossom. It simply unfolds according to its inherent nature. In the same way, enlightenment isn't something to be attained, but rather your natural state to be remembered. This truth reveals itself through Norris, who spent nights dreaming of locked doors. He knocked until his hands grew weary, pleaded until his voice grew hoarse. Yet the doors remained sealed until one night he simply stopped knocking. In that moment of surrender, he realized the doors had never been locked. They weren't even doors at all, but projections of his own belief in separation. Look closely at your own experience. The peace you seek isn't found through endless spiritual seeking. It emerges when seeking dissolves into recognition. You are already what you hope to become. The divine light you chase is the awareness illuminating every moment of your existence. This is why the great masters speak of awakening as a recognition rather than an achievement. It's not about adding something to yourself, but removing the veils that hide your true nature. The seeker and the sought are one. They always have been. Your endless search ends where it began, in the silent recognition of what has always been true. You are the awareness in which all experience appears. You are the peace that needs no practice. You are the love that seeks itself through countless forms. The practice. Find a quiet moment and settle into stillness. With eyes closed, say softly, "I am already home," letting all striving dissolve into easeful being. Rest in the recognition that what you seek is what you are. Chapter 24. The Breath of Compassion. In a bustling marketplace where shadows danced between stalls and sunlight painted patterns on ancient stone, Sadie hurried past faces she refused to truly see. Each morning she walked this path to her shop, averting her eyes from those who reminded her of what she feared most, the loss of everything she had built. One dawn, a figure emerged from the shadows, an elderly woman wrapped in tattered cloth, her eyes carrying wisdom beneath their weariness. As their gazes met, Sadie felt an uncomfortable mirror reflecting back her deepest fears. In that moment, she recognized her own masked vulnerability in the woman's weathered face. Something shifted within Sadie's heart. The walls she had built began to dissolve, and compassion flooded the space where judgment once lived. Without thought, she shared her morning bread, and in that simple act, both giver and receiver transformed into expressions of the same light. Through this sacred encounter, you glimpse a fundamental truth. Compassion is not an action, but a recognition. When you see yourself in another, the illusion of separation dissolves. The universe operates through this law of unified vision. What you extend to others instantly becomes your own experience. The path of manifestation flows most powerfully through an open heart. Your desires align with universal forces when you release the habit of separation. every judgment cast outward becomes a barrier to your own abundance. Every moment of compassion opens another channel for grace to flow. This truth found vivid expression in Leroy, a merchant who faced betrayal from his closest associates. Rather than harbor resentment, he chose to send blessings to those who had wronged him. With each act of kindness toward his former partners, the weight of hurt lifted from his spirit. His business flourished anew, but more importantly, his heart expanded beyond the confines of past pain. What Leroy discovered, and what awaits your own discovery, is that compassion clarifies perception more purely than hours of meditation. When you look upon others through eyes of mercy, you begin to see reality as it truly exists. A single field of consciousness expressing itself through countless forms. Your judgments of others mirror your own self-judgment. Your compassion for others becomes self-compassion. This is not merely poetic truth, but the actual mechanism through which consciousness evolves. The universe responds not to your thoughts or words, but to the radiance of your recognition. Ancient practice of the golden breath. Find a quiet moment and settle into stillness. Imagine your breath as streams of golden light flowing from your heart center. With each exhale, direct this light towards someone who suffers, including yourself. Continue until you sense the air itself becoming unified with your compassion, until the boundaries between giver and receiver dissolve into pure awareness. Let this practice remind you that mercy is not something you do, but what you are when all barriers fall away. Chapter 25. The Light Behind the Eyes. Throughout time, a truth has whispered itself into existence. What you see in others reflects what lives within you. This ancient wisdom found its way to Esther one autumn morning as she walked through her neighborhood. Each face that passed held a familiar light, an echo of something she knew intimately yet couldn't quite name. A child's laughter rang out, and Esther felt joy bubble up within her own chest. An elderly man's worried expression mirrored anxieties she had carried. A woman's confident stride awakened her own inner strength. With each encounter, the veil between self and other grew thinner until it dissolved completely. This recognition transformed her world. The grumpy baker, who had always seemed to judge her harshly now, appeared as someone protecting old wounds she too had nursed. The teenager who radiated anger reminded her of her own struggles with acceptance. Even the neighborhood cat that watched from windowsills reflected her own quiet observation of life. What you perceive in others is not separate from your own consciousness. The universe presents itself as countless forms, yet beneath these costumes flows one eternal awareness. When you judge another, you judge a part of yourself. When you love another, you love yourself more fully. In a distant village, Virgil discovered this same truth through an unexpected path. Known for his conflicts with neighbors, he began a simple practice, meeting each person's gaze with a genuine smile. At first, it felt mechanical, almost false, yet as days passed, something shifted. The hostility he had grown accustomed to began to soften and dissolve. What Virgil didn't realize was that his smile arose from recognizing himself in others. Each time he offered warmth instead of defense, he acknowledged the shared essence beneath their differences. Those who had seemed enemies became mirrors, reflecting back his own capacity for both conflict and peace. Through these stories flows an eternal teaching. Separation exists only in thought, not in truth. The boundaries we perceive between ourselves and others are like lines drawn on water. They appear real but hold no substance. When you truly see another, you glimpse yourself looking back through different eyes. The practice. As you move through your day, greet each person you encounter with this silent acknowledgement: myself in another costume. Let this recognition dissolve the illusion of separation until all you meet become beloved aspects of one infinite expression. Chapter 26. The Dance of the Infinite Now. In the heart of a bustling marketplace, June stood transfixed by a peculiar sensation. Time seemed to fold in upon itself, revealing a truth as old as consciousness itself. As merchants called their wares and customers haggled over prices, she noticed how each moment contained every possibility, past regrets and future hopes dissolving into the eternal now. The universe speaks through the present moment alone. When you chase tomorrow's dreams or replay yesterday's stories, you miss the only point of power, this sacred instant where creation occurs. Your thoughts, feelings, and awareness in this moment shape the next, like a painter whose brush never leaves the canvas. June had spent years planning her perfect life, always pushing fulfillment into some distant future. When I have enough money, after I meet the right person, once everything falls into place. Yet as she stood in that marketplace, watching sunlight dance through morning mist, she understood. The future she sought could only emerge from fully inhabiting now. This truth reveals itself through Marvin's tale. For decades he collected books on manifestation, attended workshops, and created vision boards, always preparing for someday. His home became a shrine to future success, while life flowed past unnoticed. Then one morning, gazing at his reflection, he saw the absurdity of waiting for life to begin. That very day, Marvin started speaking as though his dreams were present reality. He walked with the confidence of someone already accomplished. He felt gratitude for what he desired as if it existed now. Within weeks, opportunities appeared that had eluded him for years. His art gallery, long relegated to someday, manifested when a friend offered a vacant storefront. His relationship transformed once he stopped waiting for his partner to change. The eternal moment holds every possibility in seed form. When you align with its power, refusing to postpone life, creation flows naturally. The universe knows only now. It cannot create in your imagined future or remembered past. Your point of attraction is always your present vibration. To manifest consciously is to realize that this moment contains all moments. The person you wish to become already exists in potential, waiting to be acknowledged now. The abundance you seek flows when you feel wealthy in this breath. Love arrives when you embody love's presence today. The practice. Several times today, pause and declare, "Only now is real," feeling timelessness pulse in you. Let this truth settle into your bones until you sense the creative power alive in each instant. Allow the eternal moment to reveal itself as the only stage where life's magic unfolds. Chapter 27. The Diamond Within. In the heart of a bustling marketplace, a woman named Belle yearned for signs of enlightenment. She had studied sacred texts, attended workshops, and sought wisdom from teachers far and wide. Yet one ordinary afternoon, as she sat beneath an ancient oak tree, Something extraordinary occurred, not through effort, but through surrender. Time itself seemed to pause. The ceaseless mental chatter about past and future dissolved, revealing an eternal presence that had always been there. In that pristine moment, Belle recognized that what she sought was not separate from her own awareness. The light she chased was the very consciousness through which she searched. You too have this light within you. It is not something to attain, but to remember. When you release the habit of seeking outside yourself, a profound shift occurs. The universe is not elsewhere, waiting to be discovered. It moves through you, as you, expressing itself in each breath, each heartbeat, each moment of pure awareness. What keeps you from this recognition is the belief that enlightenment is distant, that truth requires a journey. Yet just as waves are never separate from the ocean, your consciousness is never apart from the infinite. The seeming gap between seeker and sought is an illusion maintained by thought alone. Consider how a ray of sunlight, though appearing separate, remains one with its source. Similarly, your individual awareness is a beam of universal consciousness, temporarily focused through the lens of personal experience. When you rest in the still center of your being, the artificial boundaries between self and source naturally dissolve. Ralph, a humble gardener, glimpsed this truth while tending his flowers one dawn. As morning light touched each petal, he suddenly recognized the same radiance flowing through all living things, plants, insects, birds, and humans alike. There was no separation, no division between observer and observed. The light behind his eyes was the same light animating all of creation. This recognition transformed how he moved through the world. No longer did he see others as separate entities, but as unique expressions of the same infinite awareness. His garden became a living meditation, each plant a reminder of the unity underlying all apparent diversity. What Ralph discovered through flowers, you can realize through any gateway that opens your heart to presence. The key is not in accumulating more knowledge, but in releasing the assumption of separation. When you stop seeking what you already are, the veil of division naturally falls away. Your true nature is not hidden. It is the awareness in which these words appear. It is the silence between thoughts, the space within which all experience unfolds. Like a mirror that effortlessly reflects all images while remaining unchanged, your essence is the unchanging witness to all that comes and goes. This is not merely philosophy, but direct knowing available to you now. As you read these words, can you sense the awareness that knows them? That luminous presence is what you are, has always been, and will always be. The practice. Find a quiet space and close your eyes. Imagine a radiant diamond glowing in the center of your chest. This represents your indestructible essence, pure, clear, and eternally present. With each breath, allow its light to expand until your entire being shines with its brilliance. Rest here until you recognize this radiance as your true nature. Chapter 28. The Gentle Folding In. In the heart of a bustling marketplace, a woman named Hattie stood watching the flow of life around her. For years she had sought understanding through books and teachers, believing truth lay somewhere outside herself. But on this ordinary afternoon, something extraordinary unfolded. As she observed the endless stream of faces and voices, the familiar boundaries of perception began to shift. The separation between observer and observed gradually dissolved. The marketplace no longer appeared as something external to be witnessed, but as movements within her own vast awareness. Every sight, sound, and sensation folded back into consciousness itself, like waves returning to the ocean. This simple truth lies at the heart of creation. There is no division between the perceiver and the perceived. What you experience as the world arises within your own awareness. The ancient teachings speak of this as the dissolution of duality, the falling away of the imagined barrier between subject and object. When you truly look, you find no border where you end and the world begins. There is only consciousness, expressing itself as infinite forms while remaining forever unchanged. Like a mirror containing countless reflections, yet never becoming anything other than itself. This understanding dawned clearly for Ben one morning as he watched the sun rise over distant hills. As golden light spilled across the landscape, he felt the usual sense of being a separate observer melt away. There was no Ben watching the sunrise. There was only the witnessing itself, and within it, the silent union of seer and seen. The light touching the hills was the same light illuminating awareness. The warmth on his skin was consciousness experiencing itself. Even the subtle movement of breath was the universe breathing through a form it had fashioned from itself. All was one unbroken wholeness. This revelation points to your true nature. You are not merely a person observing reality. You are the space in which all experience appears. The world you perceive is not separate from the awareness perceiving it. Subject and object are two faces of the same timeless presence. Like waves returning to the ocean, all experience naturally dissolves back into the light of pure consciousness. This is not something you need to make happen. It is the natural movement of existence. Your role is simply to recognize what is already so. The practice. Each dusk, as day fades into night, sit quietly and observe how all sensations, thoughts, and perceptions naturally dissolve into awareness. Whisper softly, "All returns to light," and rest as the spacious consciousness that you are. Let this simple recognition illuminate the truth of your being. Chapter 29. The Silent Birth. A woman named Hattie stood watching the flow of life around her. For years she had sought understanding through books and teachers, believing truth lay somewhere outside herself. But on this ordinary afternoon, something extraordinary unfolded. The familiar boundaries of perception began to shift. The marketplace no longer appeared as something external to be witnessed, but as movements within her own vast awareness. Every sight, sound, and sensation folded back into consciousness itself, like waves returning to the ocean. This simple truth lies at the heart of creation. There is no division between the perceiver and the perceived. What you experience as the world arises within your own awareness. The ancient masters spoke of this, yet their words pointed to what can only be discovered through direct recognition. In the depths of night, Cora lay awake, watching her breath move in and out. Between one breath and the next, time stopped. In that spaceless instant, she saw with perfect clarity there had never been a journey. No distance had ever been traveled. The seeking itself was a dream within awareness, like waves searching for water while made of water themselves. What you call enlightenment is not some exalted state to be achieved. It is simply your natural condition, unobstructed by the mind's projections. When seeking falls away, what remains is what was always here: pure, unbounded awareness, recognizing itself through all forms. In a remote village, Ned walked in silence among the people. He offered no teachings, wrote no books, gave no lectures. Yet those who came near him felt an inexplicable peace descend. The very air seemed to still in his presence. Without words, he showed that truth needs no explanation. It is the ground of being itself, recognized or not. This is the final secret. There is nothing to attain. The separate self-seeking enlightenment was itself the only obstacle. When this is seen, life continues as before, but now it flows by itself, with no one claiming to be its source or director. The mind may still create stories of past and future, of journey and destination. But you now rest as the unchanging awareness in which all stories arise and dissolve. Like space, you contain all while remaining untouched. Practice. Several times throughout your day, pause and notice how life is already happening by itself. Breathing occurs, thoughts appear, actions unfold. Yet, where is the doer? Rest as the awareness in which all movements arise spontaneously. No effort is needed. Being is effortless. Chapter 30. The Radiance That Remains. In an unassuming garden, May tended to her flowers, not seeking enlightenment, but simply present with each moment. As she reached to touch a rose petal, something shifted. The boundary between her hand and the flower became indistinct. She felt herself not as a separate being performing actions, but as the space in which all actions occurred naturally. You, too, stand at this threshold of recognition. The journey that seemed to stretch endlessly before you reveals itself as an illusion. There was never any distance to travel, no self to perfect, no enlightenment to attain. What you sought was always here, wearing your face, looking through your eyes. Through May's experience, you glimpse the final truth. Manifestation is not something you do. It is what you are. The universe lives itself through you. Your desires, your inspirations, your creative impulses. These are not personal possessions, but the divine expressing itself uniquely as you. As morning light streamed through his window, Grant sat in his usual chair, expecting another ordinary dawn. But in that moment, he saw that each new day wasn't merely a repetition of time, but eternity refreshing itself continuously. The light wasn't separate from his seeing of it. The warmth on his skin wasn't separate from awareness itself. Past and future dissolved into the eternal now of pure being. This revelation awaits within you. You are not the seeker, but the space in which all seeking happens. You are not the creator, but the awareness through which creation flows. Every manifestation arises spontaneously within you, not the limited you of personality, but the vast you of consciousness itself. What appeared as separate moments of manifestation reveals itself as one continuous expression of life, living itself through you. Your role shifts from doer to witness, from creator to allowing presence. In this space, miracles unfold not by your effort, but by your recognition of what already is. The practice. Find a quiet moment and settle into stillness. Allow your attention to rest in simple awareness. Notice how thoughts, sensations, and experiences appear and disappear within you like waves in an ocean. Feel how everything that arises, every sight, sound, thought, and feeling, is made of the same consciousness that you are. Remain here until the wonder of being becomes as natural as breathing. This is your true nature, eternally present, eternally new. If you enjoyed this audiobook, I created a free ebook version for you. You can download it using the link in the pinned comment. Conclusion. At the pinnacle of your journey, a profound truth emerges. There was never truly a destination. What you sought has always been the essence of what you are. Like a wave realizing it was always the ocean, you discover that manifestation flows not from absence, but from the infinite abundance you embody. Through these 30 chapters, you have not acquired something new, but remembered something eternal. The law of attraction reveals itself not as a tool for gaining, but as the natural expression of your inherent completeness. Your desires no longer stem from lack. They arise as divine play, each thought a celebration of the infinite exploring itself through form. Within this recognition, ordinary moments shimmer with extraordinary presence. The morning light streaming through your window, the warmth of your coffee cup, the sound of distant birds, all emerge as perfect expressions of the one consciousness you are. There is no separation between the attractor and the attracted, the creator and the created. The practices and parables shared here were not steps toward some future awakening, but gentle reminders of your timeless nature. You need not strive for alignment. You are alignment itself, expressing through this unique form called you. Every breath celebrates this truth. Every heartbeat confirms it. This is not an ending, but an eternal beginning, where each moment unfolds fresh from the source you have always been. Let this knowing rest quietly in your being, infusing your days with effortless grace. The search is complete, not because you found something, but because you recognized the searcher as the sought. You have always been home. Welcome to the remembrance of your radiant nature.
If you enjoyed this exclusive audiobook, I handpicked this next book which will change your life.